Going to be any evacuation.
Another non-believer. Won't they ever learn? Only this guy's problem is a small matter of a very active volcano.
This thing's a powder keg. Oh, I think that's a damned irresponsible conclusion on your part.
Oh well, then perhaps there's still time for a little passion in paradise. That's some kiss. Passion that really sparks. But this sucker makes Mount St. Helens look like a kid's sparkler.
Oh, I think that's a damned irresponsible conclusion on your part.
You said that already. Paul Newman, Jacqueline Bissett, William Holden, James Franciscus, Alex Karras, Pat Morita. Excuse me, but don't we have any other explosions? Thank you. Burgess Meredith and Hill Street's Veronica Hamill. They were all having a good time when time ran out.
Hello everyone, this is Chase Pounds, and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing a movie I've been meaning to discuss all this year, wanting to review all this year. A very popular disaster movie called When Time Ran Out. It came out in 1980. It it was a movie that starred Paul Newman, William Holden, and Jacqueline Bissett, an all-star cast. This evidently was the very last movie Irwin Allen did, and it's particularly marked the end of the 70s disaster genre. And it's kind of obscure. I wouldn't say obscure, but it's just not really popular as some of his other movies, shows of work that Irwin Allen has done. Irwin Allen, was most known for his other works, such as the science fiction such as Lost in Space, Time Tunnel, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, which was also a theatrical movie and became a TV show. And his works in early disaster movies such as The Poseidon, The Tower Inferno. Tower Inferno marking which movies that defined the disaster genre of the 70s. And by the way, I own the tape of this movie When Time Ran Out. I don't currently have it with me. I have it at my other house with all my other VHS tapes, but I owned it. I think I showed the tape in some of my previous videos that I've referenced this movie. And I think in my first video I mentioned that Irwin Allen did Land of the Lost. I had it backwards. He did a show called Land of the Giants, and he did a movie called Lost Worlds, but they kind of sound alike, so I got confused. And but anyway, there were ideas with the success of his movies, The Poseidon, The Tower Inferno. He thought the ideas of sequels is quite common when a movie does so well as to make a sequel out of it. There was ideas to make a Tower Inferno 2, but this never got underway, off the ground. Then there was also even the idea of making a Earthquake, the 1974 movie Earthquake, also defined as a disaster movie of the year. Though it wasn't an Irwin Allen movie, it too had ideas for a sequel, which that never got underway either. It was actually planned that the sequel would be where the refugees of both, which were George Kennedy's character, Victoria Principal, and the niece, which was Charlton Heston's lady he was having an affair with in the movie. They were one of the survivors, and they were take refuge in San Francisco. But unfortunately, San Francisco itself was hit by an earthquake and a tsunami. So that was supposed to be part of the movie. But as I said, this never was developed or got underway. The script ideas actually housed, I think, at Universal Studios on display. I'm not sure what some of this recycled for the 2015 film San Andreas, as it's the only movie that has features an earthquake in San Francisco that has a tsunami. Tsunami in it. Tsunami in it, but anyway, time ran out. As I said, marked the was the movie that marked the end of the series of disaster movies. And meaning the reviews I see of this reviews I heard about the movie say it's a very poor movie, I guess with plot and acting and I guess continuity, I guess kind of logic of the movie and the plot. But anyway, basically it's the story of it's set on the South Seas Island in the Pacific, where his name is Mr. Gilmore, who has a hotel, who has a set of hotel franchises, and he opens a hotel on the island in the South Pacific, unaware of the dangers of there being a volcano, and he also has a arrogant hotel manager by the name of Bob Sprangler, played by the name of James Franciscus, who even though despite him working you seem like at one point in the movie he works at the observatory of the volcano as a part-time scientist, and he's been told data that a volcano is due to erupt, though he dismisses it because of greed and greed and money gets to him. He downplays, lies to a oil tycoon, owns an oil well, which is played by Tom Hanks. I mean not Tom Hanks, Paul Newman, and his name is Hank in the movie, but he kind of senses that something's off from the start, and kind of questions Bob Sprangler about the readings of the volcano, though Bob dismisses it. But at the same time, Bob Sprangler also is in love with Mr. Gilmore's I think niece or granddaughter, stepdaughter, named is Nikki, and he's having an affair with one of the native hotel employees. Yet at the same time, there's a Yet the native Hawaiian girl is set to be married to a is set to be married to a to an employer at the hotel. And he too senses that something's off, as she is not ready to be married. And then with that following that there's a this one time, I think one day, the next day, both Hank, Mr. Springler, and a scientist both go into the laboratory of the mountaintop of the active dormant volcano, and they have like this in the laboratory they have like this, like it's kind of like a cylinder like ride, like an elevator that takes you down into the core of the volcano at the very bottom. And it has like windows, and at the bottom is made out of glass. And they take the elevator down to the core, and as you get further down, it starts to get hot and warm and warm. And it's funny, they talk about turning up the AC, it gets hot in there, but what you well, my response would be what you expect if you in an active volcano. Active volcano is gonna bound to get hot, especially the magma and the lava, so forth. And as they go down, you can see the lava the lava kind of bubbling, boiling up, and right then and there is to Hank as a sign of that the readings are off, and right then and there the scientist pleads with him. It's better to go back up. Just right then and there, the elevator starts to blow up, and as they're being wheeled back up to the top of the mountaintop to the laboratory, the explosion breaks the glass, and almost one of the people, the professor, almost falls out the elevator, and they both Hank and Sprinkle both grab onto him for dear life the whole time as they're being wheeled back up. And it's right then and there Hank senses that the volcano is set to erupt. As he says, this thing's a power kick, it's ready to blow. And yet Spangler still was expecting his deal with his contract is both turned down, as Hank is more prioritized about the safety of other people and his men at the oil rig to evacuate. Yet Bob Springer isn't concerned about that. Isn't because of the greediness of his contract, and the money that gets to him consumes him, and therefore it kind of exposes him at with Mr. Gilmore as he confronts him about the readings at the volcano, and he says that he only can trust people up to a point, and that he can tell that there's been a lot of double talking. He's been lying the whole time. While that's taking place, Hank tries to reason with his men that they should evacuate and leave, and not worry about the oil rig contract. Yet a lot of people refuse to leave, thinking that nothing can happen, and that some are concerned too about having to pay having families to provide for it, means of financial support. Yet some listen and most don't listen, and they end up as one of his buddies, Hank's buddies, ends up going to a little saloon in the town square of the island, and he at the saloon he staged for a cockfight. As unfortunately, when the volcano erupts, they're both caught up in an earthquake tsunami. Some of the remaining people take refuge in a car vehicle, and they head for the safety of the hotel. While that's taking place, Hank was eventually goes for a having like a little picnic, a little lunch on the beach with I'm trying to remember the name is the Jacqueline Bissette's character on the beach, and they're both having a picnic on the beach, and they getting very intimate. And at one point, as they're getting ready to kiss, the volcano erupts, and they both head to they both head into the helicopter to pick up head to the hotel. And as they're heading to the hotel, from the ground they can see some people on the farm that are trying to save their horses I guess trying to that's the word I'm looking for, trying to save as much as they can. It's basically save as much as they can from the farm, and they both Hank lands on the farm and takes two of the refugees, the two kids and the farmer, two farmhands, and I think Nikki rides in the helicopter too, and they take off the hotel. But unfortunately, as they're flying over the volcano, one of the men falls off the railing of the helicopter, because there wasn't enough, I guess, space for every person on board the helicopter to have a seat. So two of them is round the rail, and one falls off as they are heading to the hotel. So they lose one casualty already, and they head to the hotel. They try to warn the people, to persuade the people that it's best that they evacuate, and but yet people are so, I guess, got so I guess a mixture of people are both scared, and some people who believe that the safety is at the hotel, is mainly because of the persuasions of Bob Springler, who reassures people and tries to reassure and comfort people they're safe at the hotel. Yet Hank thinks it's best that they set out on their own to hit the safety, but yet many of the people decide to stay behind. Hank rounds up a group of people, small number of nice group, and majority of the people stay behind. Both Gilmore, the children, the grandfather, the remaining grandfather, both the blind man and blind man who's a detective, and wanted guy on fraudulent activity, which the detective is played by Ernest Borgnine, and the fraudulent guy, the wanted fraudulent guy is played by Red Button from the Poseidon, both from the Poseidon Venture. From the Poseidon Venture, and then they so other people too that head or also that decide to join the group as well, as they are set to they have to try and set to work their way through the rural parts of the island, uninhabited parts of the island to reach safety. Unfortunately, as they're trying to head to the other side of the island, the bridge they cross is flooded at the bottom. Is a flood of lava, a lava flow at the bottom of the bridge, and the bridge is very old and rickety. It's old and rickety, and they had to cross the lava flow to safety. And in order to make it to the other side of the island. So it's just a bunch of obstacles where they have to make their way across the island. I'm not gonna spoil, for those who haven't seen this movie, I'm not gonna spoil the ending and tell you the ending, how it ends, but basically they pretty much, people trying to track is pretty much like people trying to make it to the other side of the island to reach safety from the volcano. And that's pretty much the plot of the movie. Now, this movie, when it came out in 1980, this didn't really do so well at the box office. And this was at a time when disaster movies in general were starting to die out and starting to lose their cinematic appeal as they did in years prior. You had the movie Beyond the Poseidon Venture, also by Ron Allen, The Swarm, and other movies such as The Concord Report 79 were also box office failures. Were starting to mark an end to the disaster movie trend, and other action-packed movies were starting to change the direction of a cinema history, such as you had in 1975 Jaws, though it was not a disaster movie, though it was a more like a predator, suspense predator film, sometimes categorized as a horror movie, which last year, by the way, was the 50th anniversary of Jaws as well. And other movies such as Star Wars too also changed cinema history in the direction of sci-fi, science fiction, and special effects in general. So those contribute things that maybe made disaster movies by the late 70s not very kind of lose their suspense, their appeal. And then finally, this movie, Time Right Now, really marked the end of the last disaster movie of this period. Or I should say, true disaster movie of this period. There was, you also had the following year the comedy Airplane. And playing that also to some people categorized in the disaster movies. Now this movie by today's standard is most people say it's not a very good the plot, I guess, the acting, the dialogue, just the whole movie itself, I should say, isn't, to some people, is kind of campy, kind of a bad disaster movie. From the acting, the special effects, and special effects, the acting, special effects, the dialogue, and so forth, and I forget how much this. Yes, this movie performed poorly at the box office. It only grossed 3,763.98 million. I think, if I'm saying this correctly, at the box office. And this was a 20 million budget film, and while the intentional budget was about intentional budget was 20 million at Warner Brothers. And I don't think there was ever an actual theatrical official original thriller for this, though it was a made-for-TV thriller, which is what I show at the beginning of my video. This as I said, this wasn't like a, I guess a very memorable film when it came out. This was the movie was supposedly based off a book by Sterling Stefan from 1969 called "The Day the World Ended." Well, actually, I think the author was named Gordon Thomas. It says here they was written by Gordon Thomas and Max Morgan Witz. And it was supposed to be loosely based off a 1902 volcanic eruption in Pele, though in the movie it's set in the contemporary times. It's setting, but I think that would have been an interesting, I guess, a concept for Ellen to do maybe like a period disaster movie set during the turn of the century, depicting the historic volcanic eruption. I may have been something that I think that would have been something I would have been interested in, but this is the movie we got, unfortunately. Though even though this film contradicts the book is supposedly based off of, and the details of the events, it does make some historical references, particularly in the scene where William Holden trying to persuade many of the tourists at the hotel, many of the customers, people at the hotel, they're trying to warn the people at the hotel that they should evacuate. William Holden tells a story, references the 1902 eruption, though it was very briefly mentioned. There was also a historical reference to the last volcanic eruption on the island was the eruption that occurred in 1912, which happened to be around the sinking of the Titanic. So there's that historical connection as well. But other than that, this is very fictitious story. Most part, this movie was very fictitious, contemporary fictitious story. Or personally, in my opinion, it's really I am opinion about the movie. It's really I should begin by saying that I wasn't really aware of this movie when it came out. I think it was referenced in the referenced in one of the disaster documentaries by AMC. Boom Hollywood's greatest disaster movies, which go kind of the only documentary I know of that really explores all the that goes through that explores the history of how the disaster films got the origins of disaster films, how it the trend and how it evolved and changed during certain periods of decades, in particular this period, the 70s. Though it doesn't talk a whole lot about this movie, though it makes a brief reference in the in this of this film, along with Beyond the Pacific, which never is rarely any other documentary is really brought up. The few documentaries which aren't many documentaries in general of the Pacific Adventure in general, but it's the only documentary that makes reference to the sequel Beyond the Pacific Adventure in this film. When time ran out, it makes like shows like posters, like a collage, like it goes through different movie posters of the era of the 70s, and it ends off saying that ends off with time ran out. When time ran out, and that's the poster that really kind of came to mind when I was a kid. I think I was about 11 years old. I didn't think much about the movie, about seeing it, but it was only until 2018. It was around I think the summer 2018, which is kind of a tradition personally for me that I usually tend to watch the Pacific Adventure movies around the Memorial Day holiday, and it was one Memorial Day in 2018 that I watched the Pacific Adventure and Beyond the Pacific Adventure, and then it made me curious on thinking about this movie when time ran out about watching this movie. So I kind of Googled it on Wikipedia about the plot of the movie. Then I tried to go on YouTube and find it, and I didn't really find the whole full movie yet, but I did see the thriller, and it seemed when I first watched it, kind of seemed like an interesting movie to watch it, especially the bridge crossing scenes, and that's how I stumbled upon this movie. Then it was hard for me to find the movie, as I said, but it was until Christmas I was able to get I had to wait till I decided to buy a DVD of it for Christmas and see how I have all the other Pacific Adventure movies, and I had the Tower Inferno on VHS. I just might as well own this movie and part of my little collection. I guess you could call it the collection. It was like a part of along with my other movies I owned. And I watched it. I think it was Day After Christmas with me and my mom, and I think it was kind of stuff in it that I guess probably didn't make sense, or was just poor decisions people made in the movie. But other than that, me and my mom are both kind of the I guess this is kind of a genre disaster movies, kind of up our alley. So it was kind of was a good movie for us. I guess we could say we're kind of a sucker for these type of disaster trope movies. But I think it's, in my opinion, it's a step down from what was before. Again, because I think compared with his earlier works with the Pacific Adventure, the Tower Inferno, those were really well done films, and yet they were kind of fresh concept, while by this point disaster movies were kind of being saturated in pop and being already saturated on the screens at the time by this point, and there was other taste in movies that it seemed like it would start to lose its, I guess, excitement, its appeal. Some of the But I do think it's better off than the movies we have now, which are movies now are saturated in CGI and CGI and now CGI and then now we have people are using AI as well in films, artificial intelligence, which further takes away the authenticity of film and filmmaking. Is yes, I would actually think too that this would be the last era in film, the last disaster movie in an era where films were done traditionally with either with stock motion models, stock footage, or shot on real locations, where everything now is probably done with a replica set. Not to say that occasionally certain movies would still shoot on actual location, but still they would use, I guess, for convenience, I guess for staying within the budget, they may use like a set or replica that may not be as authentic. Though some people today's standard may find it very, I guess, cheesy to see things done with miniature models, or things you could tell are done with models that look I guess less realistic, because I guess our exposure is different over time. But I kind of prefer it done the traditional way. I'm not really a big fan of the CGI. Had a movie like this been made today, like the case of remade or a sequel was made, or remake, like the case of the Poseidon Venture movies. When they were remade, they were mostly done in CGI. Particularly scenes that I think stand out the most is particularly the falling scene that really is what really stood out, is the way he was shot too. It just, I get that really, when I first saw the thriller of it, it kind of looked a little disturbing, seeing someone about to fall in the pool of hot water, a river of lava, and I guess in that manner, just in slow motion. But as a time, it just kind of seemed a little it just seemed, just something about it seemed kind of fascinating, maybe further interested in wanting to see the movie, just because again, I just never seen it shot like that. And I can show you examples of this, and I haven't seen any other examples of it in but to some it may seem I guess other people may seem, and other people sponsors I heard other reviews say that it was the way that the falling scenes were pretty cheesy, I guess, kind of poor quality. But just to me it seemed different, unique, just like other special effects, such as the I guess just odd or just different. Kind of like with the blood, like the scene in the earthquake in the elevator, like the blood splattering scene, and people make a lot of have a lot, it gets a lot of negative flag that's one of the negative flags of the movie Earthquake, the blood splattering scene. It looks just cheesy, and another scene I thought kind of unique, kind of odd, unique scene sequence was in the night made for TV, and I just remember how they showed the room flooding. Really, I could show you some of the scenes. Yeah, and that scene where the lady in red falls off the bridge, that was, I think pronounced it right, Diane Rubin. She was a pretty obscure actress. I was trying to look up information about her, but But she was actually in both Tyrone Inferno and this movie right here. So that's another actress with a connection as well with the two Irwin Allen movies. And then on that, Veronica Hamill was who plays Nikki. She was in the sequel Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. Strange, when I was looking up the name of the actress who falls off the bridge, Veronica Hamill's name came up, and I knew that wasn't correct. That again shows you the work of AI and false information and so forth. But those were some of the main scenes that stood out from the movie, was the falling scenes. And as for as far as the acting, I mean, not only that before I get to the acting, how some of the movie is, it's just pretty much it's just a rehash of both the Tower Inferno and the Poseidon. Like, it has all the same elements from the both two movies, where such as humorousness, arrogance, greed. Particularly Bob Spangler character was pretty much reminiscent of Richard Chamberlain character who was in the Tower Inferno, the arrogant son-in-law in the Tower Inferno. And there's a scene identical to that where both Chamberlain and Francesca's character both get slapped by Mr. Gilmore and Gilmore, both played by the William Holden characters, who was both in the Tower Inferno, and both the Tower Inferno, and there's also some of the scenes of people just like with the safety cable in the Tower Inferno. For people rushing the safety cable, panicking at the last minute, and people fall to death. Just as similar to it in this movie, Time Ran Out. People rush the helicopter in a panic. People rush the helicopter, and they kind of take over the helicopter and hijack it, and they end up crashing, and people die. So that's pretty much that from the Time Inferno was used when Time Ran Out. The Poseidon Adventure scenes for the Poseidon Adventure, I mean, what was reminiscent of the Poseidon Adventure was the ballroom scenario where people who thought their chances of safety was to stay in the ballroom, while a group think it's best they leave and sit on their own to reach the upside down top side safety of the capsized ship. While in Time Ran Out, the people decide to stay. The arrogant people decide to stay in the hotel, thinking it's safe from the volcano, while a group sets on their own to reach the other side of the island to safety, just as they were trying to reach the high part of the ship in the Poseidon Adventure to safety. So it's kind of the same elements of that. So you got the arrogant, I guess, prick up a purser in the Poseidon Adventure who is dictating that people should stay where they are, and then the Bob Spangler character is dictating how people should stay where they are in the hotel. So it's all that, and that's pretty much, I guess, the gist of it. It's pretty much the rehash of those movies that Allen was already known for. It may be a little bit beyond the Poseidon Adventure too, because you have a blind person needs help navigating, just as in this movie, a blind person needs help navigating. To my mom, she saw a little, particularly with the trope of the affair, seeing another woman trope, the affair trope. To my mom, it reminded her of the movie Earthquake. In her opinion, though I saw kind of a difference with with the overtone and earthquake compared to this movie though. With Charles Heston's character. I'm not saying I'm justifying what he was right for having an affair with seeing the other lady, but I can understand why he would do it because Ava Gardner's, his wife Remy in the movie, played by Ava Gardner, was kind of a pain in the neck, so I can understand why he would feel the reason for trying to for probably wanting to find a better woman that better suits him, I guess, or found a nice loving lady compared to the wife he was married with, which I don't understand why he could just have divorced her. I guess he was maybe uncomfortable or didn't want to break her heart, but I felt though it just seems like earthquake. It seemed justifiable, or she had it coming because the way she was acting anyway. But with time right now, Francesa's character, he was more arrogant, more spiteful, more again greedy. Again, going back to the whole thing surrounding with the contract, his greediness and the arrogance of putting the contract first before safety. His whole arrogance, his whole cockiness, gives a more antagonist overtone to it. I can see where she's going because it's an affair trope, maybe, but I just see like the circumstances, the reasons why were different in the two movies. If you understand what I'm going at. As for the acting, I think it was fine. I think with William Holden, and I hear from most people too that his acting was pretty well. And I don't really watch a lot. I only know him from the Tower Inferno. In this movie, I don't know his other movies. I think he delivers a nice performance, traditional, respected performance of a generation. I guess you could say. You can't tell that. I guess, and it was known that he had like an alcohol addiction. He went through. I think he had like an alcohol addiction later in his life. I guess you could see it the way it looks on his face. I guess you could see the toll of his age at the time. And it just something though feels different with him in this movie compared to Tower Inferno, because in the Tower Inferno he had glasses on. These real big glasses. And I guess I was used to seeing it most of my seeing it since I watched Tower Inferno since I was in third grade. So I was more familiar with his role in that compared to this movie where I've seen just only seen this movie just a few times in the recent years compared to the Tower Inferno. I've seen it dozens of times, so it feels, I guess, a little different how seeing him without glasses. And by the way, this was William Holden's last movie. I think last movie he did. By the way, he would die tragically in a shower accident. He fell and hit his head. He died in the following year in 1981, tragically. So but now also interesting fact about William Holden too. I didn't know. I found this out on like a trivia question on my local news, and that he was born not too far from St. Louis. Not in the state of Missouri, but over in Illinois. I think it was I'm trying to look up the name. Yep, he was born in O'Fallon, Illinois. No, as it says, I kind of just learned about this in, as I said, from a trivia question on the news. I kind of recognized the name William Holden from this movie, Tower Inferno. So that's an interesting fact about William Holden. As for Paul Newman, his role in it, the main character, it seemed kind of dry, comparing it to and on that you can also tell too how much Paul Newman has aged from when he was in the Tower Inferno to when this movie came out in 1980. You can see his hair was kind of getting a little white, I think. But compared his role in Time Ran Out compared to the Tower Inferno, he seemed like he has a little bit of sarcasm in the Tower Inferno. He seemed like he has a little bit of humor and sarcasm in it. Compared to this movie, he just really just dry, very serious, bold role. A very serious, bold role. It has a rare one of reviews before. He said to him, it seemed like Paul Newman was on autopilot. He wasn't like his usual role, but it just differs again because I'm used to seeing his performance in Tower Inferno and used to his acting in that compared to this movie I just seen in recent years. It just differs a lot. He's very serious, and he hardly ever cracks a smile in the movie smoothly. Other than this one, I mean, he don't really smile that much or laughs or anything. There's only like he only does a kind of little small scene is when he's getting intimate with Jacqueline Bisset on the beach just before the volcano erupts. He kind of makes a little smile and crack. Smiles and cracks. But for the most part, he's really straightforward, serious. He really plays a straight, serious role in this movie. That's pretty much what I had to say about the acting. Really stood out. And as I said, this will be Irwin Allen's last movie, the actual movie he would produce. And I do get a sense of sadness, particularly by the end of the movie, when at the ending credits, since the sadness at the ending credits, because knowing that this was his last movie and it didn't do so well, and it's the music, background music, the credits, and particularly this background music kind of feels a little sense of sadness too. Something about the music just gives a vibe of sadness. Of course, being this last movie, it seems interesting because when time ran out, because for Irwin Allen, his time had ran out for his role in filmmaking. He wouldn't really do anything theatrical. He did do like made-for-TV movies. This last, particularly, interestingly, his last movie he did was starred the late Natalie Wood, and this will be her last movie. It was called, I kind of mentioned this in my Titanic video that he my last Titanic video I just did he did a made-for-TV special called In Memory of Eva Walker, which was, the book was loosely based off the Titanic, but was altered and changed to set during World War II, involved a shipwreck that sank during World War II. That would be his, I'm not sure, that would be his last, I guess, made for TV special. I think he did some other stuff in the 80s, but he would die in 1991, I think. The legacy of Irwin Allen would continue in the 90s, as there would be would live on, because there was a resurgence in the 90s with in disaster movies partly because of CGI, with the development of CGI. You would have a series of volcanic films that dealt with volcanic eruptions, particularly Dante's Peak, Volcano, which is my mother's favorite. And then you have a made-for-TV movie called Volcano Fire on the Mountain. Fire on the Mountain. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. This devolved the themes of volcanic eruptions. These three movies. Then you had, of course, Twister, Dante's Peak. Twister and Independence Day. Then you had a series of Titanic movies, No Greater Love, the 1996 version with Catherine Zeta-Jones, Titanic. Then, of course, the James Cameron Titanic. Disaster films were kind of still popular now. In case you have a disaster film, though I don't think they always get the Oscar-winning praise they deserve. Certain movies, but I think certain I feel like some of these disaster movies could possibly be I guess just overdone, or maybe just I feel like the whole theme, the whole genre is kind of recycled, reused a lot, maybe kind of reused. But there are some good disaster movies, such as in my opinion, San Andreas has nice special effects. In my opinion, being a person in these types of movies. But that's all I kind of had to say about this movie. Again, Time Right Now is kind of an obscure movie to some people, maybe because it didn't do so well to begin with. It's not as noble as his Irwin Allen's greater work, The Pacific and the Time Inferno. But if this interests you, feel free to check out this film, and feel free to subscribe your thoughts on this video. This is another video by Chase Pound. Stay tuned for my next video. And that too, I forgot to mention Jacqueline Bisset. She was also in the Airport franchise too, so she has connections to the Seventh Disaster movie as well. And she will also go on to also was featured in the BBC made for TV movie Britannic, which is a supposed to be based off the story of Titanic's lost citizenship Britannic, though the film has a lot of historical mistakes and inaccuracies and is a poor quality. So it's not really poor quality, though she appears in that movie. That's all. Again, that's another video by Chase Pounds.